Wait. Before you watch another second, I need to warn you about something. What you're about to discover has been deliberately hidden from you your entire life. For centuries, governments, institutions, and powerful organizations have worked together to suppress the most shocking truths about human history. I'm talking about historical facts so dangerous that they've been banned from textbooks, removed from curricula, and erased from official records. Tonight, I'm going to expose 200 forbidden historical secrets that will completely shatter your understanding of reality. But here's what's absolutely terrifying. There are people who do not want this information to get out. This video could be taken down, censored, or banned at any moment. So if you're watching this, you're one of the lucky few who gets to learn the real truth. They've lied to you about ancient civilizations. They've covered up impossible technologies. They've fabricated entire historical events. They've hidden the true origins of human civilization. And they've done it all to maintain control. In the next 90 minutes, I'm going to reveal secrets that will make you question everything. We're talking about evidence of advanced ancient technology that shouldn't exist. Historical figures who were completely different than you've been told. Wars that were fought for reasons they'll never admit. And discoveries so profound that they will change our entire understanding of human potential. Hit that like button right now if you're ready to learn the truth they don't want you to know. Subscribe and ring that notification bell, because this might be the most important video you ever watch. And whatever you do, do not click away, because every secret builds on the next. By the end of this video, you'll understand why they've worked so hard to keep these truths hidden. You'll know secrets that less than 1% of the population knows. And you'll never look at history the same way again. Are you ready to have your reality completely destroyed? Let's dive into the forbidden truth. Ancient technologies they can't explain, the Antikythera mechanism cover-up. Let's start with something that will immediately blow your mind. In 1901, divers found a 2,100-year-old computer at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. The Antikythera mechanism is more complex than anything built until the 1700s. But here's what they don't want you to know. This device predicts eclipses, tracks planetary movements, and calculates Olympic games for centuries in advance. How did ancient Greeks build mechanical computers when they supposedly didn't even have gears? The impossible Roman concrete. Roman concrete gets stronger over 2,000 years while modern concrete crumbles in decades. They used volcanic ash that creates self-healing crystals. We still can't replicate this technology. Why can't modern science with all our advanced chemistry replicate ancient Roman concrete? What knowledge have we lost? Or more importantly, what knowledge has been deliberately suppressed? The Damascus steel mystery. Damascus steel was so superior that European knights would pay fortunes for a single sword. It could cut through European armor like butter. The steel had patterns that indicated its internal crystal structure. But here's the shocking part, the technique was lost in the 1700s. How does an entire metallurgical process just disappear? Unless someone wanted it to disappear. The Delhi iron pillar impossibility. A 1,600-year-old iron pillar in Delhi has never rusted. It weighs 6 tons and contains phosphorus and other elements in proportions that create a protective coating. Modern metallurgy can't explain how ancient Indians achieved this. Why don't they teach this in metallurgy schools? Why isn't this technology being studied and replicated? What other ancient technologies are being ignored or suppressed? The Mayan crystal skulls enigma. Crystal skulls found in Mayan ruins are carved with such precision that they require tools we didn't invent until the 20th century. The skulls show no tool marks and are carved against the natural crystal grain. How did ancient Mayans carve quartz crystal with precision that requires modern diamond-tipped tools? What technology did they possess that we're not being told about? The Egyptian pyramid precision. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with 99.9% accuracy. Its base perimeter equals the circumference of Earth at the equator when multiplied by 43,200. The ratio of its height to base perimeter equals pi. These aren't coincidences, they're impossible without advanced mathematical and engineering knowledge. Why do mainstream archaeologists refuse to address these mathematical impossibilities? The Pumapunku megalithic mystery. Pumapunku in Bolivia contains stone blocks weighing over 100 tons, cut with precision that requires modern machinery. The blocks have perfectly straight edges, precise angles, and complex interlocking designs. These stones were quarried 10 miles away and transported to 12,000 feet altitude. How did ancient people move 100-ton blocks through mountain terrain without modern equipment? The ancient Baghdad battery. Clay jars found near Baghdad contain copper cylinders and iron rods that function as galvanic cells. When filled with acidic solution, they generate 1.5 to 2 volts of electricity. Ancient Mesopotamians had electricity 2,000 years ago. Why isn't this taught in schools? What other ancient technologies are being hidden from us? The Stonehenge acoustic mystery. Stonehenge was designed with perfect acoustic properties. Sounds made inside the circle are amplified while outside sounds are blocked. The stones create harmonic resonance at specific frequencies. Ancient builders understood acoustic engineering that we're only now beginning to comprehend. Was Stonehenge a temple, observatory, or something else entirely? The Nazca lines in possible precision. The Nazca lines in Peru are so large and precise they can only be fully appreciated from the air. Some lines are perfectly straight for over 30 miles. How did ancient people create aerial art without flight? The precision requires aerial surveying techniques. Either ancient people could fly, or they had help from someone who could. Why won't mainstream archaeology address this impossibility? The ancient flight technology. The vimanas described in ancient Sanskrit texts include detailed descriptions of flying machines with specific flight instructions, fuel requirements, and pilot training protocols. These aren't myths, they're technical manuals. The descriptions include details about mercury-powered engines and aerial combat tactics. Did ancient civilizations have flight technology? The ancient nuclear references. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe weapons that create bright flashes, mushroom clouds, and areas where no grass grows for years. The Mahabharata describes weapons that kill all life in a city. These descriptions match nuclear weapons perfectly. Were ancient civilizations fighting nuclear wars? Is this why certain archaeological sites show evidence of vitrification and radioactivity? The suppressed archaeological evidence. Artifacts that don't fit the accepted timeline are routinely hidden, dismissed, or destroyed. The Smithsonian Institution has been accused of deliberately suppressing evidence of advanced ancient civilizations. Why do museums refuse to display artifacts that contradict official timelines? What are they afraid the public might learn? The ancient machining evidence. Egyptian granite boxes show evidence of precision machining, with tolerances of 0.002 inches. These require modern machine tools to achieve. Ancient stonework shows drill marks, saw cuts, and lathe work that shouldn't exist. Either ancient people had technology we've lost, or someone with advanced technology was helping them. The evidence is undeniable, but it's being systematically ignored. But ancient technology is just the beginning of what they're hiding from us. Fabricated historical events. The Trojan War fiction. The Trojan War, taught as history for centuries, may be completely fictional. Archaeological evidence shows Troy was destroyed multiple times, but never by the massive Greek army described by Homer. Why has Western civilization built its cultural foundation on a war that probably never happened? What purpose does perpetuating this myth serve? The Dark Ages deception. The Dark Ages is a fabrication created by Renaissance scholars to make their own period seem more enlightened. Medieval people had universities, advanced agriculture, and sophisticated technology. They deliberately created the myth of backward medieval people to justify their own supposed superiority. The Islamic Golden Age, Chinese innovations, and medieval European achievements were systematically downplayed. The Columbus discovery lie. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. Vikings reached it 500 years earlier, and indigenous peoples had been there for 15,000 plus years. The discovery narrative justified European colonization and genocide. Calling it a discovery erases the existence of millions of indigenous people. This linguistic manipulation justified centuries of exploitation and cultural destruction. The gladiator entertainment myth. Roman gladiator fights were not fight-to-the-death entertainment. Most gladiators were expensive trained athletes who rarely died in combat. The thumbs-down execution is Hollywood fiction. Conspiratorial tone. Why perpetuate the myth of Romans as bloodthirsty savages? What purpose does this serve in shaping our understanding of ancient civilizations? The medieval flat earth fabrication. Medieval people never believed the earth was flat. This myth was invented by 19th century writers to make medieval people appear ignorant. Ancient Greeks calculated Earth's circumference in 240 BCE. They created this lie to justify Western superiority over supposedly primitive historical periods. Medieval scholars knew the Earth was round and calculated its size accurately. The Napoleon height propaganda. Napoleon wasn't short. He was 5 feet 7 inches, above average for his time. British propaganda deliberately spread the short Napoleon myth to diminish his reputation. Height measurements were different between French and English systems. This shows how propaganda shapes historical perception. One deliberate lie became historical fact and influenced how millions of people view a historical figure. The witches burning exaggeration. The number of witches burned is massively exaggerated. Most witch trials ended in acquittal, and many witch hunts were actually property disputes. The hysteria was far more limited than popular culture suggests. Why exaggerate historical persecution? How does inflating these numbers serve modern political narratives? The Library of Alexandria burning myth. The Library of Alexandria wasn't destroyed in one dramatic burning. It declined gradually over centuries due to funding cuts and political changes. The barbarians destroying knowledge narrative is fictional. This myth serves to portray certain groups as destroyers of civilization while others are portrayed as preservers. It's historical propaganda disguised as fact. The Viking horned helmet fiction. Vikings never wore horned helmets. This image was created by 19th century Romantic art and Wagner's operas. Real Viking warriors wore simple iron caps or fought bareheaded. Why perpetuate false images of historical peoples? How do these visual lies shape our understanding of entire civilizations? The Salem witch trials manipulation. The Salem witch trials were deliberately exaggerated to create fear of mass hysteria. Only 20 people died, but the event is portrayed as representative of widespread persecution. Why is this relatively small event taught as a major historical lesson? What modern fears is it meant to justify or prevent? The medieval chastity belt myth. Chastity belts are Victorian inventions. No authentic medieval examples exist. This myth was created to portray medieval people as barbaric and oppressive to women. Victorian moral crusaders created fake medieval devices to justify their own sexual repression. They literally manufactured historical evidence to support their ideology. The Thanksgiving First Feast fiction. The first Thanksgiving story is largely fabricated. The Pilgrims and Native Americans had a complex, often hostile relationship. The peaceful feast narrative ignores decades of conflict and disease. This sanitized version serves to justify European colonization by portraying it as peaceful cooperation. It erases the reality of indigenous displacement and cultural destruction. The George Washington Cherry Tree Lie. The story of George Washington chopping down a cherry tree is completely invented. Parson Weems created this tale to sell books. It became history through repetition, not evidence. If they'll fabricate stories about the Founding Fathers, what other historical facts are actually propaganda designed to shape national character? The Paul Revere Midnight Ride exaggeration. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride is vastly exaggerated. He was captured before completing his mission, and many other riders carried the same message. The heroic narrative was created for political purposes. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem created the myth in 1861 to inspire Union loyalty during the Civil War. Poetry became history through patriotic repetition. But fabricated events are just one layer of deception. Wait until you discover the historical figures who never existed at all. Fictional historical figures. The Homer mystery. Homer, credited with writing the Iliad and Odyssey, probably never existed. Multiple ancient sources question his existence, and the epics show evidence of multiple authors across different time periods. Why maintain the fiction of a single greatest poet when evidence suggests these works were collective creations? What does the great man theory of history serve? The William Shakespeare deception. The man named William Shakespeare from Stratford-upon-Avon had limited education and no library, yet supposedly wrote works requiring vast knowledge of law, medicine, court life, and foreign languages. Many scholars believe Shakespeare was a pseudonym for educated aristocrats who couldn't publish under their own names. The greatest writer in English may be a completely fabricated identity. The King Arthur fabrication. King Arthur is a complete fiction created by medieval writers to justify Norman rule in Britain. No contemporary sources mention him, and Camelot is pure fantasy. Geoffrey of Monmouth literally invented Arthur in the 12th century to create a glorious British past that never existed. This fictional king shaped English national identity for centuries. The Robin Hood invention. Robin Hood is entirely mythical. No historical records of any Robin of Locksley exist. The character was created to romanticize rebellion while keeping it safely in the past. The Robin Hood myth serves to channel revolutionary sentiment into harmless fantasy. Instead of real rebellion, people can dream about fictional heroes who rob from the rich. The Jesus historical problem. Despite his enormous historical impact, Jesus of Nazareth left no contemporary written records, and early mentions come decades after his supposed death. Some scholars question whether he existed as described. How can someone who supposedly influenced millions leave no contemporary documentation? This isn't about faith, it's about historical methodology and evidence. The Moses archaeological silence. Despite detailed biblical descriptions, archaeologists have found no evidence of Hebrew slavery in Egypt or the Exodus. Egyptian records, which document everything, contain no mention of these massive events. How do 600,000 plus people wander a desert for 40 years without leaving archaeological evidence? Either the events were smaller than described, or they never happened as written. The Buddha compilation theory. Buddha may be a title applied to multiple enlightened teachers whose teachings were later combined into a single biographical narrative. Early Buddhist texts show contradictory biographical details. Why create single founder figures when wisdom traditions developed over centuries through multiple teachers? What does the great founder narrative serve? The Confucius attribution mystery. Many sayings attributed to Confucius appear in texts written centuries after his death. Confucian philosophy may be a compilation of various Chinese wisdom traditions attributed to one figure. Ancient Chinese records show philosophical schools, not individual founders. The Confucius said attribution may be later organizational propaganda. The Socrates-Plato problem. Everything we know about Socrates comes from Plato's writings. Socrates wrote nothing himself, and Plato may have used him as a fictional spokesperson for his own philosophical ideas. How do we separate historical Socrates from Plato's literary creation? The father of philosophy might be a fictional character created to make philosophical arguments more persuasive. The Laojia legendary status. Laojia, the supposed founder of Taoism, is acknowledged by Chinese scholars as legendary rather than historical. The Tao Te Ching shows evidence of multiple authors across different periods. Ancient Chinese tradition was comfortable with legendary founders, but Western scholarship insists on historical individuals. Why do we need everything to have a single human origin? The Pythagoras school attribution. The Pythagorean theorem wasn't discovered by Pythagoras. Babylonians used it 1,000 years earlier. The entire Pythagorean school may have attributed their collective discoveries to their founder. Why give individual credit for mathematical discoveries that took centuries to develop? The great mathematician narrative erases collaborative intellectual development. The Hippocrates medical myth. The Hippocratic Oath and medical texts attributed to Hippocrates were written by dozens of different physicians over centuries. Hippocrates became a brand name for Greek medical knowledge. Why attribute centuries of medical development to one man? The father of medicine narrative simplifies complex knowledge evolution into hero worship. The Anonymous Chronicles problem. Many historical biographies were written by anonymous authors, centuries after their subjects died. These later writers had political motivations for portraying historical figures in specific ways. How much of what we call history is actually political propaganda written by people who never met their subjects? Historical facts may be ideological fiction. The historical evidence standards. Historical figures we accept as real often have less evidence than figures we dismiss as mythical. The standards of proof are inconsistently applied based on cultural and religious preferences. Academic historians apply different evidence standards depending on whether confirming or challenging established narratives serves institutional interests. Historical fact is often institutional consensus, not evidence. But fictional figures are just the tip of the iceberg. The real conspiracy involves entire historical narratives created to justify modern power structures. Religious and cultural conspiracies. The Council of Nicaea Bible editing. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE deliberately chose which books would be included in the Bible and which would be banned. Dozens of early Christian texts were declared heretical and ordered destroyed. Who gave these political leaders the authority to decide divine revelation? The Bible was edited by Roman politicians for political purposes. The Gnostic Christian suppression. Early Christianity had dozens of competing interpretations. Gnostic Christians believed in direct personal revelation and didn't need church hierarchy. Orthodox Christianity won through political power, not theological truth. The Nag Hammadi Library, hidden for 1,600 years, reveals completely different versions of Christian teaching. What other religious texts have been deliberately suppressed? The pagan holiday rebranding. Christmas, Easter, and other Christian holidays are rebranded pagan celebrations. December 25th was the Roman celebration of Sol Invictus. Easter incorporates fertility symbols from Germanic spring festivals. Early Christians deliberately absorbed pagan traditions to make conversion easier. Your religious holidays are actually ancient nature celebrations with new names. The Crusades' economic motivation. The Crusades weren't about religion, they were about economics. European nobles needed new sources of wealth, and the Catholic Church needed to redirect European violence away from itself. Holy war was marketing for economic conquest. The religious narrative justified death, murder, and colonization. How many wars hide economic motives behind religious rhetoric? The Inquisition property seizure. The Spanish Inquisition was primarily about seizing property from wealthy Jewish and Muslim families. Religious purity was the excuse for the largest property theft in European history. Religious persecution provided legal cover for government-sanctioned robbery. How many religious movements are actually economic conspiracies? The Reformation political manipulation. The Protestant Reformation succeeded because European rulers wanted to seize Catholic Church property. Religious reform was convenient cover for the largest land grab in European history. Henry VIII created the Church of England to steal monastery wealth. Religious conviction was political and economic opportunism. Faith was weaponized for financial gain. The missionary-colonial collaboration. Christian missionaries worked directly with colonial governments to destroy indigenous cultures. Saving souls was cover for cultural genocide and resource extraction. Missionaries deliberately destroyed indigenous knowledge, languages, and traditions. They weren't spreading love, they were spreading cultural imperialism. The biblical archaeology bias. Biblical archaeology is designed to confirm religious narratives rather than discover historical truth. Funding and career advancement depend on supporting biblical stories. How can archaeology be objective when researchers' careers depend on confirming religious texts? Scientific methodology is compromised by religious institutional pressure. The Dead Sea Scrolls suppression. Access to Dead Sea Scrolls was restricted for decades by religious scholars who didn't want contradictory information released. Some scrolls challenge fundamental Christian and Jewish beliefs. Why restrict access to historical documents? What information were they afraid the public might learn? Religious institutions controlled archaeological evidence for political purposes. The religious text translation manipulation. Religious texts have been deliberately mistranslated to support institutional power. Key words in Hebrew, Greek, and Arabic have been changed to create different theological meanings. Virgin birth may be a mistranslation of young woman. Hell may be a mistranslation of grave. How many religious beliefs are based on translation errors or deliberate changes? The Vatican Secret Archives. The Vatican Secret Archives contain millions of documents that could revolutionize historical understanding. Access is severely restricted, and many documents remain classified. What historical information is the Catholic Church hiding? Why maintain secrecy about historical documents if there's nothing to hide? The religious war manufacturing. Many religious wars were manufactured by political leaders who manipulated religious differences for economic and territorial gain. Religion provided convenient mobilization for secular conflicts. The 30 Years' War killed 8 million people, but it was really about political control of European territory. Religious difference was the excuse, not the cause. The modern religious fundamentalism creation. Modern religious fundamentalism was deliberately created in the 20th century as a political movement. Traditional religious interpretations are actually recent political innovations. Fundamentalism serves political purposes by creating reliable voting blocs and justifying authoritarian policies. Ancient traditions are modern political constructions. The interfaith dialogue suppression. Throughout history, religious leaders who promoted interfaith cooperation were systematically silenced or eliminated. Religious institutions profit from maintaining division and conflict. Religious unity threatens institutional power. If people realized all religions teach similar ethics and spirituality, they wouldn't need hierarchical religious organizations. But religious manipulation is just one tool of control. The real conspiracy involves how entire civilizations have been erased from history. Suppressed civilizations. Hidden chambers in ancient monuments contain time capsule messages warning future civilizations about cyclical catastrophes. These messages, written in universal mathematical language, have been discovered but are classified by governments worldwide. Ancient civilizations knew their destruction was coming and left detailed instructions for rebuilding advanced technology. These time capsules contain blueprints for free energy, medical cures, and technologies that would revolutionize modern life. Artificial moons and planetary engineering. Evidence suggests that some moons in our solar system are artificial structures built by ancient civilizations. The moon's hollow nature, its impossible orbital characteristics, and its geometric relationship to Earth all suggest artificial construction. Ancient texts describe sky gods who arranged the heavens and set the planets in their courses. This wasn't mythology, it was historical record of planetary engineering by advanced civilizations. The evidence is hidden by space agencies. Crystal skulls and advanced computing. The crystal skulls found across the Americas aren't primitive art, they're sophisticated information storage devices created by advanced civilizations. These crystals can store vast amounts of data and interface with human consciousness. Modern analysis shows these skulls were created with technology we don't possess. They contain holographic information systems that can download knowledge directly into the human brain. This technology threatens modern educational and power structures. Ancient global energy grid. Megalithic sites worldwide form a precise geometric grid that channeled and distributed free energy across the planet. Pyramids, stone circles, and ancient temples were nodes in a global energy system that powered ancient civilizations. The mathematical precision of this grid is impossible without advanced surveying technology and global coordination. Ancient civilizations had unlimited free energy, which is why their monuments were built to last millennia. Shape-shifting technology in ancient texts. Ancient texts from multiple civilizations describe technology that could alter human appearance and even species. These weren't supernatural abilities, they were advanced biotechnologies that ancient civilizations developed. DNA manipulation, cellular reconstruction, and biological transformation technologies are described in detail in ancient Sanskrit, Egyptian, and Mayan texts. This technology was so advanced it appeared magical to later civilizations. Anti-gravity vehicles in ancient art. Ancient art worldwide shows clear depictions of flying vehicles, anti-gravity platforms, and spacecraft. These aren't symbolic representations, they're technical diagrams of actual vehicles used by ancient civilizations. The consistency of these depictions across isolated cultures proves that anti-gravity technology was widespread in the ancient world. Vimanas, flying carpets, and divine chariots were real vehicles powered by suppressed physics. Ancient genetic engineering programs. Ancient texts describe systematic genetic engineering programs that created different human subspecies for specific purposes. The gods of ancient mythology were actually advanced scientists conducting genetic experiments. Archaeological evidence shows that ancient humans had genetic modifications that enhanced strength, intelligence, and longevity. These genetic programs created the demigods and heroes described in ancient literature. Frequency healing technology. Ancient civilizations used sound frequency technology to heal diseases, accelerate plant growth, and enhance human consciousness. Temples were designed as acoustic healing chambers that could cure any illness. Modern research has rediscovered that specific frequencies can heal cancer, regenerate tissue, and restore health. Ancient civilizations had mastered this technology and built their entire medical system around frequency healing. Planetary communication networks. Ancient civilizations had communication networks that extended beyond Earth. Texts describe regular contact with beings on other planets and coordination between civilizations across the solar system. Ancient astronomical knowledge was so precise because they were in direct communication with observers on other worlds. This interplanetary civilization was destroyed in catastrophic events that isolated Earth. Consciousness manipulation technology. Ancient temples contained technology that could directly interface with human consciousness. These systems could download knowledge, alter memories, and enhance psychic abilities. The technology was considered sacred and later suppressed. Mystery schools used this technology to instantly transmit knowledge to initiates. The rapid advancement of ancient civilizations was possible because they could directly transfer consciousness and skills between individuals. Weather control systems. Ancient civilizations had complete control over weather patterns using electromagnetic and acoustic technologies. Droughts, floods, and storms were engineered events used for agriculture and warfare. The global climate was artificially maintained by these systems. When the technology was lost during catastrophic events, natural climate chaos ensued. Modern weather manipulation is attempting to recreate ancient capabilities. Interdimensional portal technology. Ancient sites were built at locations where interdimensional portals could be opened. These gateways allowed instant travel across vast distances and access to parallel realities. The technology was lost during civilizational collapse. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and the Great Pyramid were all portal activation sites. Ancient peoples could travel instantly across the globe and even between dimensions. This technology threatens modern concepts of physics and reality. The Great Reset pattern. Historical evidence shows that advanced civilizations are systematically destroyed every 12,000 years in coordinated reset events. These aren't natural catastrophes, they're deliberate destructions followed by historical revisionism. We're approaching another reset cycle, and the evidence is being hidden to prevent humanity from preparing. The pattern of civilizational destruction and rebuilding has repeated throughout history, with each reset erasing previous achievements. But these lost civilizations aren't the only ones hiding the truth from you. Government historical deceptions. The American Civil War was about economic control, not slavery. The Civil War was actually fought over economic control of American industry and resources. Slavery was used as emotional manipulation to justify a war that was really about northern industrial interests versus southern agricultural independence. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation only freed slaves in rebelling states. Slaves in Union states remained enslaved. The war was designed to centralize economic power and create industrial wage slavery to replace agricultural slavery. World War I was engineered by international banking cartels. World War I was deliberately orchestrated by international banking families to create massive debt that would enslave European nations. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand was just the trigger for a pre-planned economic war. The same banking families funded both sides of the war and profited enormously from the debt. Countries that were financially independent before 1914 became debt slaves to international finance. This was economic conquest disguised as nationalism. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation, not government. The Federal Reserve System is a private corporation owned by international banking families, not a government institution. It was created in secret on Jekyll Island to give private bankers control over American currency. The Federal Reserve has never been audited and operates in complete secrecy. It creates money from nothing and loans it to the government at interest. This system has transferred trillions of dollars from taxpayers to private banks. The JFK assassination was a government coup. John F. Kennedy was assassinated by elements within the U.S. government because he threatened to dismantle the Federal Reserve, end the Vietnam War, and expose UFO cover-ups. The Warren Commission was a deliberate cover-up. Kennedy's Executive Order 11110 would have returned currency creation to the Treasury Department, breaking banking cartel control. He was eliminated before this could take effect. The assassination was a message to future presidents. Operation Paperclip brought Nazi scientists to America. After World War II, the U.S. government secretly imported over 1,600 Nazi scientists, including war criminals who conducted human experiments. These scientists formed the core of NASA, the CIA, and American weapons programs. Werner von Braun, who used slave labor to build V-2 rockets, became the father of the American space program. Nazi mind control experiments became CIA psychological warfare programs. America was literally built on Nazi science. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was completely fabricated. The Gulf of Tonkin incident that justified the Vietnam War never happened. Government documents prove it was completely fabricated to justify American military intervention. Thousands died for a lie. NSA documents released decades later admit there was no North Vietnamese attack. The entire Vietnam War was based on deliberately falsified intelligence. This established the pattern for future wars built on lies. MKUltra mind control programs never ended. The CIA's MKUltra mind control programs weren't discontinued, they were refined and expanded. Modern mass media, education systems, and social platforms use psychological manipulation techniques developed in these programs. MKUltra techniques for creating dissociation, implanting false memories, and controlling behavior are now used on entire populations through media programming. What was done to individuals in secret labs is now done to everyone through screens. The moon landing footage was filmed in studios. While America may have reached the moon, the footage shown to the public was filmed in television studios, because the real missions encountered things that couldn't be revealed. The fake footage hid evidence of existing lunar structures. Apollo astronauts reported seeing artificial structures and vehicles on the moon. The public footage was created to hide evidence of existing lunar civilization. The moon landing cover-up isn't about whether we went, it's about what we found there. The 9/11 Commission report ignored key evidence. The 9/11 Commission deliberately ignored evidence of controlled demolition, prior government knowledge, and foreign government involvement. The report was written to support a predetermined narrative, not investigate truth. Building 7 collapsed at free fall speed without being hit by a plane. Nanothermite residue found in the debris proves controlled demolition. The Commission refused to investigate this evidence because it contradicted the official story. Operation Mockingbird controls all major media. The CIA's Operation Mockingbird placed agents in every major news organization to control public information. This program was never discontinued, it evolved into total media control by intelligence agencies. Every major news story is vetted by intelligence agencies before publication. Journalists who report unauthorized information are blacklisted or eliminated. The free press is actually a government propaganda system. Weather modification has been used as warfare. Weather modification technology has been used as warfare since the 1960s. Hurricanes, droughts, and floods can be artificially created and directed at enemy nations. Natural disasters are often artificial attacks. The HAARP facility in Alaska can manipulate ionospheric conditions to create weather effects anywhere on Earth. Documents prove weather warfare has been used against multiple countries. Natural disasters are often geopolitical weapons. The war on drugs was designed to target political enemies. The war on drugs was never about public health, it was designed to criminalize and suppress political opposition. Government documents admit the drug war was created to target anti-war activists and minority communities. Nixon advisor John Ehrlichman admitted the drug war was designed to disrupt the anti-war left and black people. The government simultaneously created drug epidemics while criminalizing users. This was social engineering, not law enforcement. Project Blue Beam plans to fake Second Coming. Government documents describe Project Blue Beam, a plan to use holographic technology to fake religious appearances and create artificial Second Coming events. This technology exists and has been tested. Holographic projections can create realistic three-dimensional images in the sky. Combined with psychotronic weapons that can implant thoughts, this technology could convince populations that divine beings are appearing. Fluoride was added to water for mind control. Fluoride was added to water supplies not for dental health, but because it creates docility and reduces IQ. Nazi concentration camps used fluoride to make prisoners passive. This same chemical is deliberately added to public water. Scientific studies prove fluoride calcifies the pineal gland and reduces cognitive function. The dosages in water supplies exceed what's needed for dental benefits. Mass fluoridation is chemical crowd control. The internet was designed for total surveillance. The internet wasn't created for communication or education, it was designed by DARPA as a total surveillance system. Every click, message, and search is monitored and stored by intelligence agencies. Social media platforms were funded by intelligence agencies to create detailed psychological profiles of every user. The internet is the most sophisticated surveillance system ever created, disguised as entertainment and convenience. Fake terrorist attacks justify police state expansion. Many terrorist attacks are false flag operations conducted by government agencies to justify expansion of surveillance and control. Crisis actors, staged events, and manipulated investigations create artificial justification for police state measures. The same terrorist experts appear at multiple attack sites. Identical crisis actors are photographed at different terrorist events. These operations follow the same scripts because they're managed by the same agencies. Elections are controlled by electronic voting manipulation. Electronic voting machines are designed to be hacked and manipulated. Elections are predetermined by intelligence agencies and corporate interests. Democracy is theater performed for public consumption. Voting machine companies are owned by partisan political operatives. The machines have no paper trail and can be remotely accessed. Exit polls consistently differ from electronic results because the votes are changed after casting. Government agencies created and control all major terrorist groups. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other terrorist organizations were created, funded, and directed by intelligence agencies. These groups provide justification for military interventions and surveillance expansion. Declassified documents prove that CIA created Al-Qaeda to fight Soviets in Afghanistan. The same pattern has been repeated with every major terrorist organization. Islamic terrorism is actually intelligence agency operations. Pandemics are engineered for social control. Disease outbreaks are artificially created using bioweapons to justify expansion of government control. Pandemic responses are pre-written scripts for implementing authoritarian measures. Event 201 conducted pandemic simulations months before COVID-19 appeared. The responses were identical to the simulations because they were following pre-written plans. Pandemics are social engineering tools, not natural events. Historical documents are systematically falsified. Government agencies employ thousands of historians, whose job is to rewrite historical documents and create false narratives. Original documents are destroyed and replaced with versions that support current political goals. The Smithsonian Institution's primary function isn't education, it's historical revision. Artifacts that contradict official narratives are destroyed or hidden. What you think is history is actually carefully crafted propaganda. But government lies pale in comparison to what the scientific establishment has hidden from you. Educational system betrayals. The education system was designed to create obedient workers. The modern education system wasn't designed to educate, it was created by industrialists to produce obedient factory workers. John D. Rockefeller explicitly stated that education, the Prussian education model adopted worldwide, was designed to create soldiers who follow orders without question. Creativity, independent thinking, and critical analysis are actively suppressed in favor of memorization and compliance. Standardized testing measures conformity, not intelligence. Standardized tests were designed to identify and eliminate independent thinkers. High scores indicate conformity to authority, while creative and original thinkers are labeled as learning disabled or problematic. IQ tests were created by eugenicists to justify racial superiority theories. These tests measure cultural conditioning, not innate intelligence. The entire testing system is designed to sort people into predetermined social classes. History textbooks are rewritten every generation. History textbooks are systematically rewritten to support current political agendas. Events are removed, modified, or fabricated to create narratives that serve ruling class interests. Students learn propaganda, not history. Textbook publishers receive government funding to promote specific interpretations of events. Inconvenient facts are systematically removed while false narratives are promoted as established truth. Education is indoctrination disguised as learning. Critical thinking is actively suppressed in schools. Educational curricula are designed to prevent critical thinking by focusing on memorization rather than analysis. Students who ask uncomfortable questions are disciplined or medicated. Independent thought is treated as a mental disorder. Teachers are trained to discourage questioning and promote acceptance of authority. Curricula avoid topics that might lead to independent thinking about government, religion, or economic systems. Schools create intellectual dependency. Alternative learning methods are suppressed. Educational research has proven that alternative learning methods are far more effective than traditional schooling, but these methods are suppressed because they create independent thinkers. Montessori, Waldorf, and unschooling methods produce more creative, confident, and capable individuals. These methods are marginalized because they don't create compliant workers for corporate systems. Learning disabilities are often caused by educational methods. Many learning disabilities are actually normal responses to unnatural educational environments. ADHD, dyslexia, and other conditions often disappear when children learn in natural, self-directed ways. Pharmaceutical companies profit enormously from medicating children who don't conform to artificial educational standards. Creative, kinesthetic, and independent learners are drugged into compliance rather than educated appropriately. Universities are indoctrination centers for elite ideology. Universities don't educate, they indoctrinate students into accepting elite worldviews that serve power structures. Academic freedom is an illusion maintained while dissenting views are systematically excluded. University funding comes from corporations and government agencies that demand specific ideological outcomes. Professors who challenge established narratives are denied tenure or fired. Higher education creates credentialed conformists. Scientific research is controlled by corporate funding. Scientific research is funded by corporations and government agencies that predetermine acceptable conclusions. Studies that threaten profitable industries are suppressed while favorable research is promoted. Peer review processes exclude research that challenges established paradigms. Scientific journals are owned by corporations that profit from specific outcomes. Objective science is actually corporate marketing. Ancient knowledge systems were more effective than modern education. Ancient education systems that emphasize direct experience, mentorship, and practical wisdom produced more capable individuals than modern institutional schooling. Mystery schools, apprenticeship systems, and traditional knowledge transmission created masters in their fields. Modern education creates specialized dependents who can't function outside institutional structures. Literacy was higher before compulsory schooling. Literacy rates were actually higher before compulsory government schooling was implemented. Independent learning and family education were more effective than institutional systems. Government statistics show declining literacy and numeracy despite massive increases in educational spending. Compulsory schooling was designed to control populations, not educate them. Educational debt creates economic slavery. Student loan systems are designed to create permanent slavery that forces graduates into corporate employment. Educational debt prevents entrepreneurship and independent economic activity. Student loans can't be discharged in bankruptcy and continue growing through interest. This creates lifetime debt bondage that forces compliance with economic systems. Educational debt is economic control. Textbook publishers are owned by military-industrial complex. Major textbook publishers are owned by defense contractors and corporations that profit from specific worldviews. Educational materials promote consumerism, militarism, and corporate loyalty. The same companies that manufacture weapons write the history books used in schools. Educational content is designed to create future soldiers, consumers, and workers rather than independent thinkers. Alternative history is systematically excluded. Educational curricula systematically exclude historical perspectives that challenge official narratives. Indigenous knowledge, suppressed technologies, and alternative interpretations are absent from standard education. Students graduate without knowledge of suppressed inventions, hidden achievements, or alternative explanations for historical events. This creates population-wide ignorance that enables continued deception. Mental health labeling controls non-conforming students. Mental health diagnostic systems are used to pathologize normal childhood behaviors that don't conform to institutional requirements. Creative, energetic, and independent children are labeled as mentally ill. The number of mental health diagnoses has exploded as educational systems become more restrictive. Normal human variation is treated as disease to force pharmaceutical compliance and behavioral control. Educational technology is designed for surveillance. Educational technology platforms monitor student behavior, thoughts, and responses to create detailed psychological profiles. This information is used for lifetime tracking and social control. Online learning systems record every keystroke, pause, and response pattern. AI systems analyze this data to predict and control future behavior. Educational technology is surveillance technology. Gifted programs identify threats to authority. Gifted and talented programs aren't designed to nurture exceptional students, they're designed to identify and redirect potential threats to established authority structures. Highly intelligent children who might challenge power structures are channeled into specialized programs that redirect their abilities towards systems supporting activities. Genius is controlled rather than liberated. Educational standards are deliberately lowered. Educational standards are systematically lowered to prevent populations from becoming too knowledgeable or capable. Dumbed-down curricula create manageable populations dependent on authority. Grade inflation, reduced requirements, and simplified curricula ensure graduates lack skills for independent thinking and action. Educational degradation is deliberate population control. True learning happens outside institutional systems. Most genuine learning and innovation happens outside formal educational institutions. Schools actually impede learning by creating artificial constraints and irrelevant requirements. Entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators succeed despite their education, not because of it. Institutional learning creates conformist thinking that prevents breakthrough achievements. Educational research that shows system failures is suppressed. Research proving the failure of modern educational methods is systematically suppressed by institutional authorities who profit from current systems. Studies showing that unschooled children outperform school children are marginalized. Research proving the effectiveness of alternative methods is ignored by educational establishments that depend on maintaining current systems. Ancient mystery schools produced superhuman abilities. Ancient mystery schools taught techniques for developing superhuman abilities including enhanced memory, psychic perception, and accelerated learning. These methods are excluded from modern education. Egyptian, Greek, and Indian mystery schools produced individuals with capabilities that modern education considers impossible. Techniques for developing human potential are hidden to keep populations operating at minimal capacity. But educational betrayal is just one facet of the economic conspiracy that controls your entire life. And there you have it. These are the stories, the secrets, and the truths buried deep within time, forbidden histories they don't want you to know. But the question remains, why are these stories hidden? Is it because those in power want to control what we believe? Or because some truths are too dangerous for humanity to face? Whatever the reason, one thing is certain, the truth can be buried, but it can never be destroyed. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of this video shocked you the most? Which story made you question history the way you've always known it? Share your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one. If this video made you think, if it gave you chills, or if it opened your eyes, then hit that like button and share this video with your friends who love mysteries as much as you do. And don't forget to subscribe to She Speaks Anyways. This channel is where curiosity meets truth, where mysteries are explored, and where hidden knowledge finally comes to light. We are just scratching the surface. In the next videos, we'll uncover even more shocking, mind-bending stories that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Until then, remember, truth is hidden, but never gone forever. Stay curious, stay aware. And I'll see you in the next mystery. This is She Speaks Anyways, uncovering truths, unlocking minds.